Hey everybody, Pacers insider Dustin DePirac here with Cal Nedrip. We are at Gainbridge Fieldhouse where the Pacers have clinched their second berth in history to the NBA Finals. First since 2000. Reggie Miller was on the court to see it. But it's a real thing. These guys, 35 wins in 2022-23. 47 last year, went to the Eastern Conference Finals. This team wins 50. Came into this playoffs thinking, okay, the 4th seed, they'll have a good run, but it's probably not going to go that far considering there's two 60-win teams in the East. They got by one of them. They got by the New York Knicks. They won it in 6. 125-108 is your final in Game 6. And again, they're going on the NBA Finals to play Oklahoma City. Kyle, first off, I mean, you've been in the city for a long time. You've seen this team, even if you haven't necessarily covered this team all the time. Just what's it like to see this group go back, especially considering the depths they were in just a few years ago?
Yeah, I mean, you wouldn't have, hard to believe, even after we watched last year, they get to the Eastern Conference Finals, and even some of the guys talked about it after the game, and that was a question that came up a lot. Like, they beat a lot of injured teams, obviously.
Sure.
Can you get over this hump and do it again? You thought Boston would be there, going in, Cleveland, like you mentioned. So, yeah, to be able to just get there, I think everybody kind of, in the locker room, they're all kind of sitting around, drinking champagne, in a semicircle. They're not going crazy.
Right.
So I think there's more out there that they still want to win.
Sure.
But I think when history shows what this team did, if they don't win the NBA Finals, just to get there is humongous for this franchise. And to do it here, like Tyrese Haliburton said, they don't want to necessarily have to come back here and win here. But it makes it kind of extra special that they did do it here. It was a great night. Great game, really, I thought. Yeah. And do it here is really neat.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple moments that I got to see, and I think, I imagine if you were just staring down at this mass of humans, you were going to see some special moment in this that maybe you wouldn't have been able to see if it happened at the Garden. I mean, basically, again, you don't want to lose Game 5. You don't want to risk it because once you lose one game, you can lose 2 games. And once you lose 2 games, you can lose 3. And so if you find yourself in that position, obviously you're not trying to let a team get that kind of momentum. But what happens when you do come back and win it at home, like I saw Miles Turner talking with Nancy Lynn, and like I thought that was just a very meaningful moment. I could only pick up bits and pieces of what he was saying to her, but I mean, like, it was obviously Miles. It was just such a deeply meaningful moment when they got the microphone. Pat Boyle handed it to him, and he got to go to the Indiana thing that he's kind of put together with this fan base. And yeah, all those kinds of things were special, and you get to see them celebrate here, where there's just so many people that they're around, whether it's staff or ushers or whatever, just everybody that's a part of it in some way they get to see right there, right then, in the emotional moment. And so that was kind of cool. Again, just considering just how fast this happened, how fast this came together. It feels weird to say that considering the franchise doesn't get many of these, but the way this group came together was something else. I think one thing that kind of really stood out to me, especially after covering this team for the last couple of years, last year they had one of the worst defenses in the league. Tonight, they won because of defense. Yeah. At the end of the day, they caused 18 turnovers, 10 steals, 34 points off turnovers. I mean, the amount of the degree to which they converted when they got turnover opportunities was really something else. Basically, we were able to run. Basically, they weren't really able to run in Game 5 because they didn't get a lot of that stuff. But they were extremely efficient when it came to that. Pascal Siakam, in particular, was running ahead of everything. Basically, Andrew Nembhard is causing a lot of steals. Siakam was running ahead of the play. Siakam goes for 31 points. He's the MVP. Yeah, that's just a big piece. I thought, you got to talk to Nembhard. He had 6 steals. I thought he was phenomenal in this game after he'd had kind of a shaky series, especially had a hard time shooting the ball. The big moments, I thought, for him.
Yeah, and I think the one play you'll remember from this, or at least I will, is he was in Brunson's kitchen so much. The ball kind of goes out of bounds. I think the Knicks ended up getting the ball anyway. But just in that moment, it was like, man, he is just all over Brunson. Yes. And after that, really frustrated him to the point where he sort of headbutted him in the face, and nothing was called, and it wasn't a
Nembhard was looking at the ref and being like, what was that?
Yeah.
Is that not a foul?
And I obviously frustrated Brunson. Brunson's he's a great player, obviously, and Nembhard said that afterwards, like he's a great player, he's hard to stop. But it felt like his energy, and a lot of the players talked about that too, was Nembhard's energy on defense was a huge factor in the second half of this game.
Yeah, fascinating. You really consider the arc of this series over the last 2 years. I mean, last year Nembhard couldn't stop Brunson, so they put Nesmith on him. That's how they ended up winning that series. This year Nesmith didn't do a bad job, I didn't think, on Brunson, but obviously he has the ankle, and it was only maybe 4 possessions in, Carlisle decides to flip it, to put Nembhard on Brunson. That seemed to just change the entire flow of the game right at that point. And so it's just each of them have made a contribution to winning each of those series. And Brunson scored a lot. I mean, I think one thing that will stand out to me is throughout these Eastern Conference playoffs, they faced 3 top-of-the-line players: Giannis, Donovan Mitchell, Jalen Brunson, didn't necessarily stop any of them.
Exactly.
But did just enough to get it done. Did just enough to get across the finish line.
Yeah.
Thomas Bryant, another guy you got a chance to talk to.
Yeah.
3 big shots, big threes. Kind of one of those things that's kind of the microcosm of this team is that they, everybody steps up when they have the opportunity.
They were chanting Thomas Bryant from the rafters here at Gamebridge, so he made a huge impact. Another guy, it's like, give him credit, he stayed ready. He didn't play a couple times in the series. He's always like, like Siakam said, he's always the first guy up. He's always, a team guy. And he got rewarded for that tonight in a huge game. And you got to feel good for a guy like that stays ready and then has his moment. And he certainly did that tonight. But this team, I mean, you cover them. You go up and down the list. It's like everybody has done something to get this team here, which is the cool part. I think that's why people like this team.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
They do it that way.
I think what does impress me in the long term, because we have to, we have to ask Carlisle about this. Okay, why did this guy play tonight? Why didn't he play last night? And what happens here and all that kind of stuff. What they have done well over the long term is they've done a really good job of communicating and making sure everybody knows what their role is and everybody knows when they're in stay ready position. But maintaining belief, like nobody gets pulled and walks away from that feeling like they don't have any faith in me. They make sure that there are conversations. Say, we like what you're doing here. We like what you're doing there. We need you. Guys have seen minutes cuts. Bryant went a couple games without playing. Walker went a couple games without playing. Shepard went a couple games without playing. Mathurin had his minutes cut pretty dramatically. Comes and shows up and is a big part of this series. They've done a good job across the board of making sure everybody knows they're needed. And so even when they take a hit as far as their minutes or their role shifts for a little bit for a couple games, they make sure they don't check out and think, oh, okay, they've given up on me. It takes some kind of skill. I don't know how he does it, but he and they as a group manage to make sure everybody, just feels believed in and wanted, even when they take a hit. So we could talk about this all night, and we certainly will, because we've got the NBA Finals coming up. Pacers, Oklahoma City Thunder. That's the real thing. Thanks, everybody.